You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.
Hello, hello, hello out there in podcast land. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, where we talk about horror movies and science fiction movies and those key elements that lift them above and beyond others as far as relevance or influence or inspiration. I'm here today with my co-host, Mr. David Horton. Hello, David.
Hello, Tim. How are you?
I am doing well. I am doing well.
Good.
We are almost a quarter of the way into our season.
We are
Seems
a quarter of the way.
Yeah. We're on
Seems
our
like
ninth
only yesterday
episode.
we were rising with the apes, sort of.
I know.
Yeah.
And we were, and I was wondering, will he ever do video?
and then see this arm, it still hurt from the twisting of the arm. Yeah.
So what's been going on with your week this week in genre or non-genre related world?
Genre and non. Let's see. So genre related. I finally finished Tales from the Loop, which is a Netflix series based on a series of short stories. I really recommend it. I think I mentioned it a few podcasts back when I first started it. It's very slow, so it is a commitment to want to watch it. But the way they tie everything together in it is really cool. It's one of the better anthology version television series that I've seen that I really, really liked. Because basically you've got 10 different short stories, science fiction short stories, all set essentially in the same town. But the town is built above a secret lab from like the 50s, and all of these things can happen. So like they have, there's one entire story is set in like 1950, 1955 with that kind of technology, except they have computers and they have robots and stuff like that, because it's that kind of 50s science fiction feel to it. But it's not until the third episode that you suddenly realize, wait, the lead in this episode was the guy we saw in those two scenes in episode 1. Just in the background, and now this is his story. And
I love when stuff happens like that.
You will love it just for the layering of characters and the fact that then you go back and watch episode 1 and go, oh, okay, now that makes total sense why this happened over here. So it's that, and but it is. It's each story takes its time developing, but it's a good style too. I really like to read the novels or short stories that it's based on.
And are they called the same thing?
Yeah, Tales from the Loop.
And I mean, is this author known for anything other than that, or
nothing I'm aware of? As a matter of fact, I didn't recognize the author when I first saw it, or the producer for that matter. So it'll be curious to see what happens with it if it gets renewed. Even if they have an intention of doing a second season, I don't know if there are stories for it. So. Tales from the Loop. Let me look it up real quick.
Okay. I've actually got 3 things I can do really quickly.
It's actually on Amazon, not a Netflix. It's
Amazon.
Okay.
I was wondering. All right.
Go ahead.
Of the 3 things I have, speaking of writing, I was sad to hear that Susan Ellison passed away. Harlan Ellison died a year or so back. And I always find it kind of comforting when a spouse is a few years later. It just seems like that was kind of meant to be, as far as they're being together, to die so close apart. So anyway, that's just a little bit of sadness there. Yes. Another thing that is some good news is I have been touting more than once, and we have actually recorded a bonus episode about The Outsider, this Stephen King novel and series that HBO did that was really well done. Well, there is a second story now in a collection of novellas called If It Bleeds, with Holly Gibney, where she encounters another creature of the same ilk. And I have just found out that HBO is going to do a second season based on that story.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's something to look forward to. Did you find what you were looking for?
I wonder if they will go back to. I wonder if the leads will be in that, or if it'll just be a Holly story. You know, I can't see why they would go back to what's his name, the cop.
The cop's
So-
not in the second story.
So yeah, it will just be a.
He's
Holly
on
story.
vacation, and she does her best not to bother him.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay. So just briefly,
Mhm.
Simon Stalenhag is the author essentially, but
he
he's
Russian?
He's an artist. He looks more Scandinavian, Slavic.
Oh, okay. That would make sense.
But he's done a lot of illustrations, and a lot of the inspiration for the stories came from illustrations that
Okay.
he had done.
That's
And
very
then it was
Barker-esque.
written and created by Nathaniel Halpern, who
I know that
is
name.
known for Legion. He was one of the writers and
Aha! I
creators on
knew
Legion.
that name. Okay. And that's
So
very
as-
trippy.
As trippy and strange and wild as Legion is, take it to total extreme, and you're having, dinner at your grandparents' house in 1950. That's
Okay.
slow and mundane and thing, but it's so well done, and some of the stories in it are so well told.
Okay.
So I highly recommend it. Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Very, very good.
Yep.
The last thing the thing I was mainly going to mention before those other two that popped into my head is
Mhm.
I watched a movie a while back that I mentioned to you, and I want to bring it up just for you folks out there that have Shudder, the horror movie network, called Blood Quantum, and it is, surprise, surprise, a zombie movie,
Hmm?
and it is about fast infected type zombies, not the more traditional Romero zombies. And it takes place, it's a Canadian movie. It takes place on a Native American reservation where the Native Americans are immune to it. So it gives a really cool little
okay.
political twist there where all of a sudden white folks are having to be dependent on these people that are, already in their own little sanctuaries and immune to it. So I highly
Mhm.
recommend it. It's the second film by this guy. I've never heard of him before. I had his name here. His name is Jeff Barnaby. Don't really know much about him, but it's an interesting little indie movie. Quite subtle and charming in its message. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting.
yeah, so that's what's going there. But this week on
This
the
week.
podcast episode, we
Now,
are in
yes.
your world.
Yes, we are. Yes, so I'll lean over here, see the robot. There you go. We're in science fiction time. I should just position it so for each week,
You
I sit
probably
this
could.
way or I sit this way,
It's a zombie.
But anyway, yes, so see me playing with video. That's why I should not do video.
No, it's perfect.
Yes, but this week we are doing a very unique, in my opinion, science fiction film called The Children of Men. It came out in 2006. It was essentially written by 6 different authors, so I thought that was very interesting, but primarily rewritten for the teleplay by the director, who was Alfonso Cuarón, I think. Yes. Who has now become fairly popular based on winning an Academy Award and everything else. Brief synopsis, it is definitely a despotic story. It is set in the not too distant future and a somewhat eerily familiar future, supposedly in 2027. And we are introduced to a character named Theo. Theo was once a revolutionary rebel terrorist kind, but now he has settled into being just a drunk who works at the Ministry of Energy in London. And basically the entire world 18 years earlier was the last human birth. So for 18 years, all women on the planet have been infertile, and the human race is slowly dying. And when there's no new babies or anything else, people just tend to fight each other, which is what's happening, from revolution to plagues to all sorts of things. And
Pandemics.
yes. And England has become a bit of an isolated island haven, at least certain parts of it. The rest of it is inundated with refugees and immigrants and people trying to survive other parts of the horrible world that they're in. And basically the story follows Theo, who is approached by a former lover who works with an underground movement group called the Fishes. And they have found a woman who is pregnant, and they want to get her to safety. And Theo has some of the clouts to get some papers and some transportation things arranged. And since he used to be a revolutionary himself, he's kind of got some grit to him. And he takes on the task of trying to get this woman to safety. And that's basically the synopsis of it. Had you seen this movie before you watched it?
I saw it back when it came out, so it had been a very long time. I do remember liking it. Alfonso Cuarón, however you say that, has been on my map for a long time. He more recently did Gravity, but before that, I had watched him back in the late 90s, early 2000s when he did Y Tu Mamá También, which, I'm big into foreign movies, so I'm always checking them out, especially if they're on the radar of like awards. And that one was.
Oh yeah.
So that was the first thing I ever saw that he directed.
See, I didn't see that. I had heard about it, of course, and it was so popular at the Academy and everything. But I really didn't pay attention to him at all or see anything he's done until he did Prisoner of Azkaban, which was.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's Harry Potter. You haven't watched those yet.
Oh, right, I know.
But
bad,
Tim. But it's really good and very dark compared to the first two episodes.
I'd probably like it then.
And so it was really good to see suddenly some black magic and some darkness come into Harry Potter's world. And I think that's totally due to him, what he does best. I found it interesting. And so then naturally I had to watch Gravity when it came out and was blown away. Loved Gravity. But what did you think of this then? This story, I mean, it's totally different than what we just mentioned. It's definitely different than the Spanish one. It's definitely different than Azkaban or Gravity.
Right. I like this movie a lot, and I attribute that to the fact that it's almost comfortably in between both our genres, because it is set in like a dystopian post-apocalyptic world, and that is something I gravitate to in my genre as far as zombies or pandemic type things. So to me, it's a good blend, even though it is more of a science fiction concept. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, and I call it, again, going back to my tropes, I call it a science fiction film and science fiction content, because without science fiction, there would be no story.
Right.
Without the telling of, the end of fertility, and without the advancement of, or the science fiction element, it would become a terrorist story, basically.
Right. But like, instead, when I'm back to what I was saying about a blend, though, you don't have zombies, but you also don't have robots. You know what I mean? It's a very human story. Very human story.
And so incredibly told. I was surprised it did not get, researching it, that it did not get more attention, more awards, more, stuff than what it did.
It's definitely a movie for liberal arts aficionados, because there is a lot going on in this movie from various aspects of art and literature and stuff. There's a lot more going on than just the little biblical allegory.
Correct.
That makes sense.
Correct. Yeah. And also there's a lot of this is a political thriller too. There's a lot to be said. There were certain scenes in this, rewatching it again, I was going, that's really not that's really not too far in the future unless we're really, really careful with what we're doing. But so you overall liked it. That's good. Then.
Mhm.
Yes. It has. It
It's a
definitely has a
great
great
cast.
cast.
Yeah.
Great cast. And Clive Owen, I think, is very underrated. I read in doing some research that he had been approached once about playing James Bond, and after watching this again, I was going, that would work.
Oh
He
yeah.
would be really good at that.
Mhm.
He's. I think he's been very underrated in a lot of stuff that he's done. He's really a strong actor and really carries this whole movie. I mean, he's in practically every scene.
Well, and the rest of the cast predominantly are smaller parts, but they're great actors in small parts.
Oh my gosh.
You know.
I mean, Julianne Moore,
Mhm.
and I was surprised watching it again. I thought her contribution was longer and had forgotten that it was so short.
Yeah.
And I'll screw up the name probably, but Chiwetel Ejiofor.
You know what? I don't know how to pronounce it either, but yeah.
Chiwetel, I think it's Chiwetel.
She would tell is Geofor or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know him, science fiction trope. I know him from Firefly. He's the villain in Firefly, and he's phenomenally good in
Okay.
that. But he's done a bunch since then too. Very popular now. Michael Caine, of course.
I think he's hilarious.
He's so
Yeah.
memorable in this.
Mhm.
Yeah. And he said his inspiration for the role was John Lennon.
Right.
He wanted to do John, and I thought that was pretty cool and pretty clever.
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, even the smaller parts. I don't know the name or even the actor, but his cousin or whomever, the rich one who has the statue of David and.
No, you're talking about Nigel.
Nigel,
That's
yeah.
Danny Houston, and I
Danny Houston.
love
Okay.
him. I didn't realize we were going to segue into casting, but I don't have a lot of casting because there's not a lot of other people that were up for these roles. Actually, I don't think I have anyone up for these roles.
Right.
So we can go ahead and keep talking about it. Danny Houston, I noticed him when he was in 30 Days of Night playing the head vampire.
Yes.
He has been on a lot of stuff. So I thought, you know what, let me see what else he's done. And I don't know if you realize this, but he is John Huston's son. And Angelica
John
Houston.
Huston?
Yes, Angelica Houston's half brother from
Wow.
another mother. His father is Walter Houston. This guy is like mega film royalty, and I had no idea.
Wow, I did not know that.
That's why we like him. It's
Well,
in
that
his
makes
genes.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, I did not know that he had that pedigree. That's pretty impressive.
It is. So there you go. Another small part, big actor. I love the woman, although I've never seen her before in my life, that plays Mariska. Her name is.
She's phenomenal. Yes.
Yeah.
I was saying she deserved a special Academy Award for a role where she had dialogue and you never understood a single word she
Right.
said.
It's like you're having to interpret her actions, even though she's speaking.
Yes.
Something you don't understand. Yeah.
I mean, it's a totally foreign accent. I think it's Romanian or something.
It's something
But
crazy.
it's really was great, and she was so good. I mean, when he kept saying get in the boat at the end, and she goes, no, you know, and is pushing him away. I was going, no, get in the boat.
Yeah,
I
get in the
like
boat.
You. Take the
Mhm.
puppy. I don't care.
Her name
Go
is
ahead.
Oana Paella or Pellea. I'm not sure how you pronounce that.
Okay.
But she's great. And then it's also got that Charlie Hunnam guy plays Patrick. He got really famous on Sons of Anarchy as being like a big blonde heartthrob.
Yep.
So I recognized him. I was like, oh, I know who that guy is. I've seen his face. I've not really seen his work.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a small role in it.
The girl that plays Key is great.
Yeah,
She's
she
really
is.
good and strong. And the big other standout I had was Peter Mulan, who played Sid, the
Right.
cop that kind of rescues them.
Mhm.
I recognize him because he is Delos from Westworld. He's the
Okay.
one who starts the company in Westworld, the remake of Westworld.
I knew he looked familiar, but I did not.
Oh, he's great.
realize
And he's
that.
got such a great, like, Scottish accent. I love that kind of, Sid doesn't know why you're here. Sid doesn't care,
Right.
He was great. Very memorable characters. A lot of them
Mhm.
really good. But even the way he cast the extras and the people he chose, and or the way he directed them, like little moments when the people are seeing the child and the way their faces change and the way they reach out and want to touch or be a part of it. Some people are in awe, and some people are, just they kneel down and start crossing them. I mean, just the choices he made for that is really good in the faces of these. And even earlier on in all the cages, the faces of these refugees and these people was really well done.
I agree. I know we jumped into cast, and that was really all I had was just a mention of those people. Did you want to talk any more about background? Do you know anything about P.D. James, the novelist that
I
wrote
do not.
this story?
No.
I know she's an older woman and that she cameoed in the film and that she was very fond of it, but I don't really know that
Okay.
much about her.
No, I did not do any research into the actual source material.
Okay, yeah, I'm a bad researcher too on that, but I do recognize the name. As soon as I saw P.D. James, I was like, I know that name.
Mm-hmm.
So she's obviously got a footprint in a literary
Well,
career.
and I'm not sure how much influence she really had, because he took a lot of it and did himself, kind of thing.
He did.
I know that he rewrote quite a bit. She was mostly, from what I remember, let me check my notes real quick. Because from what I remember, she's mostly a mystery writer. She wrote like detective stories, and so I think that's where she came from.
Yeah, you're right. Death in Holy
writer.
Orders and The Murder Room are two of them. They all
so
sound like Agatha Christie novels, actually.
Yeah,
Death in the Holy Order. Yeah.
Yeah, she was a big mystery novel. And then he had like a bunch of people help write, help rewrite, work on it. But then basically he took it himself and said, here's what we're doing.
Right. And he took a break to do Azkaban too. So it was in production for quite a while, or pre-production, I guess you would say. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just wanted to touch on her a little bit. What else? I know you're going to be wanting to talk about some of the cinematography and camera work.
Oh my God. I mean, you cannot, I mean, like I said, I have not seen his earlier works, but I have seen Azkaban, Gravity, and this. Now, Azkaban, he was trying to do what Chris Columbus had done in the first two movies, so he didn't have as much flourish as in his movies. What I did like that he did in that one was he used different camera heights. So he would like have the camera on the ground scurrying along like a spider point of view kind of stuff, and do some unique stuff in it. But Gravity opens, I think, with a 9 or 12 minute scene, all done right before the crash, right before the meteorite strike and everything.
I don't know how much of that is computer generated, but I just remember it being beautiful. Gravity.
Yes. Yeah. This movie has, I mean, probably a dozen long track shots.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just like I'm following somebody walking down a freaking hall. It is like incredible scenes that go on around this, whatever the story is, whatever the character they're following. Mm-hmm. I mean, the one that everybody notes and mentions, and when you talk about long take cinematography, people remember Touch of Evil. That was Orson Welles' big one. They remember a couple of Kubrick's, but Cuarón is known for the ambush scene in this movie, which starts out with them first getting in. The camera is outside the car as they all five get in the car. And then it goes into the car. They drive down the road. It stays as one shot, this entire scene, with them playing with the ping pong ball and singing and talking and doing all this stuff, and goes all the way through the ambush, through her getting shot, through killing the police officers, and then just as they drive away, just going back and showing the police officers' bodies there on the road. That's all like one 6-minute freaking shot that involved. It took them like 2 weeks to shoot.
Right. Now, some of that he has admitted was a little bit altered with CGI.
Yeah, you had
I
to
hear
add
that,
some
yeah.
CGI and take some stuff away
Mhm.
because they had to have a camera that could fit in the car and rotate and turn, but also come out the windshield and then come to the side and then come back around. So he would have to get rid of like the weights on the other side, and some
Right.
of the stuff he did. Yeah.
It's still very ambitious.
Oh, it's amazing.
It kind of makes me tired thinking about it.
Well, that one gets me. The one where they're actually escaping from the one right after Sid gets killed, and they're escaping from
The
going to the
fishes.
boat. Yeah, yeah. No, the whole.
Oh, the like it's like a concentration camp kind of thing.
Yeah, they're in a
Yeah.
refugee camp,
Yeah.
Brexhill or whatever, and it's being assaulted by the fishes. So and people inside are rebelling and trying to fight back, and then the army is coming in to take control. And they're trying to meanwhile get to a boat to get her to safety, and it all just follows them as things blow up and a parade comes through and tanks move over. I'm going, holy crap!
Is
If
that-
somebody missed a cue, you'd have to reset and do the whole damn thing again.
Is that the one where the blood splatters the lens?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
because the cinematographer talked him into leaving it or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, yeah.
It has a very, it really feels like you're embedded in Kuwait somewhere or something. There's a lot of very
It's very violent,
intense violence in this. That,
like war type violence. Yeah, yeah.
yes, yeah, and the way he does stuff, like the way the way Michael Caine's character is killed, is very brutal and violent, and he doesn't shy away from it. You have to watch it, sort of thing. And I thought that was really well told too. The way he does some of the warmer scenes. So there's very few in this. This is, for those of you who haven't seen it while you're listening to us right now, go back and watch it, come back. But it's a very bleak story all the way through, especially for Theo. I mean, he kind of gets reacquainted with the former lover who they had a son together. She gets killed. Michael Caine's character gets
His friend.
killed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's a very bleak story, but there are those warm moments, like when he does first meet the Michael Caine character and they sit and talk and everything else. Right after the birth scene, when they are taken in by the nice guy at the refugee camp, that's a nice moment. And he those moments tend to have like a little orange glow to them. There's usually a candle somewhere or something or whatever, and it gives it a little bit more warmth.
Instead
And
of the
everything
gray.
else is cold and gray and blue and just golly. I also like his timing on some of this bleakness too. I mean, you can go down 4 flights of stairs, out the front door, all the people looking at you, some kneeling, all of them forming 2 lines to let you pass. The camera comes around, and then suddenly in the back, the second level blows up.
I
and you're
know.
just
I was like,
immediately
wow.
back into it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
it's
going,
such a surprise.
That is
Yeah.
so. I mean, and to me, it was like your point. That's a horror moment to me. That was scary all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it is a good hybrid for us in this dystopian sort of darkness that he's created. That is, to me, sadly, extremely plausible and realistic.
And underrated. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this let's take all the immigrants and put them in cages, and let's build up walls and keep everything separated, and we're better than them.
Got to keep
Sort
them
of thing.
separated.
Just man. Did you have any favorite like scenes or lines or moments or anything that leapt out to you that you really liked?
The scenes, as far as scenes, the ones that stick out to me are the ones with Michael Caine. But
Oh my gosh.
I want to say the thing that sticks with me most about the film is the overall film, because and this is a key. I'll just go ahead and throw it out there.
Yeah.
It's a literary paradigm, I guess, for lack of a better word, of like the hero's journey. It's a modern Aeneid or Odyssey, where and this is why there's great characters that you only see briefly in the movie, because it's about him and who he encounters along the way of this
Mm-hmm.
journey to the end. So
Mhm.
it's just little vignettes in one big movie. I
I
guess
like your comparison to the Odyssey. That's really good because it
Mhm.
is. And it has these memorable characters that you only get for moments and then they're gone,
yeah,
kind of thing.
right.
Yeah, I really like that.
He is Odysseus, basically.
Mhm.
Just a different story. And there's a little, they throw a lot of biblical stuff in there too. Ding.
Yep. Like you said, there is a lot of biblical in this.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole, even when she goes, I'm a virgin, and you thought, oh, they're not going to go there, are they? And then she starts laughing, and it's all a joke. But you were going, oh, okay, well, we're definitely doing the allegory, baby.
Right. It's like they're wanting you to say. It's like they're telling you, yeah, we know you're thinking it.
One of my favorite things, ironically, and this, I swear to God, this I did not realize this till we were like 5 minutes into this podcast. But one of my favorite memorable scenes in it is during the dinner party with Houston. He says they get up and go away from whatever the strange kid with the weird keyboard hand thing, the game he was playing, whatever. They get up and go to the window and they're talking about getting the papers and everything else. And you can see the pig and the smokestack, and it looks like animals. It looks like Pink Floyd's Animals.
Yeah,
right?
That's intentional. Yeah.
And look at the shirt. Look at the shirt I wore today. And I swear to God, I did not even think about it until I looked down a second ago and went, oh, wait, I'm wearing the whole Animals thing.
That's hilarious. But
so-
that was intentional. A lot of the art allusions were intentional.
Yeah.
Guernica is in there. That's a famous Picasso painting that's very memorable if you ever studied art. It pictures or it portrays, I guess you would say, the chaotic environment of what happened in Guernica. And a lot of what this movie is chaos, surrounding Theo.
Oh, yeah.
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 And I think, isn't David in there too? The statue of David?
Yeah, that's what he first sees when he walks in, is the statue of David. But they've even bastardized it and put like a fake leg on it and everything. He's chopped into it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I mean by there's all kinds of allusions to different types of art in this movie. Literature as well as painting and sculpture.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. There's allusions to a flu epidemic, which I found very prophetic kind of right now. With Corona and everything. There was... it is a movie that I think you can't be distracted when you watch this movie. This cannot be one where you're playing on your phone or you're getting up to cook dinner or whatever else, because so much is said either in another room that a character's over here that Theo's listening in on or something else. And it's huge plot points. I mean, down to the whole betrayal of his lover and him running away with Key is because he overhears a scene with the newly elected good guy of the revolution.
Mm-hmm.
That whole sequence and other stuff. I've got in notes, I love me a big newscast exposition. I'm addicted to that. I've liked it. One of my keys is Wizards, because I love the way Wizards starts. It's a Ralph Bakshi,
animated movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it starts out with the whole, here's the history of the world in 2 minutes montage. And here's where we are now. And that's what this does from the oldest, the youngest person in the world was murdered today. You see all these headlines and hear all of this.
I love the one in War of the Worlds.
Oh, War of the Worlds is good too. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It may be more audio, but I can't remember.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's
the narration from the book. It's the one they lifted from the book, I think.
Yeah. And remember, we talked about it. I think we even talked about it when we did Day the Earth Stood Still. It's the same way with all the newscasters having reactions to the flying saucer.
This is, what's his name? I can't
remember
his name.
Mid-America.
Bean.
That was good. but I'm a sucker for that. I love that whole, and now you're caught up on everything. Here you go. And then
Yeah.
they further reinforce it because they hold off on more exposition until he does actually get with Michael Caine. And then they start talking about the detail, the political intrigue and stuff. They
Mhm.
start talking about why do you think we're infertile? And why do you think this happened? And da, da, da. And I thought that was interesting.
Mhm.
Lot of religious zealotry allegory in this too. I mean, he talks about the repenters and the agnostics or something else like that. The what was it? It wasn't agnostics, but it was.
Well, I don't know. The fishes is what immediately comes to my mind because fish is a symbol as well.
Yeah, for Christians, it was the early
Right.
Christians. So
Right.
yeah, and I thought that was big. But it shows that one he's driving by and you see that one rally with the repenters who are talking about now's the time to die, and basically they're talking about a mass suicide kind of thing.
Right. Right.
I thought that was interesting.
Is that guy? And I put this note in here somewhere in my keys where they mention quietus.
Mm,
Do you remember that?
vaguely familiar. But
This
I
has
don't
got to be
remember
the
where.
same scene. Quietus. It says it's. Oh wait, the name of the drug that is advertised throughout is
Yes.
quietus, and
Uh-huh.
quiet with the word U.S. altogether. Quietus.
Hmm.
It's an allusion to Shakespeare's Hamlet, who contemplated making his quietus with a bear bodkin, which is discussing suicide.
Right.
That's why
Right.
I'm relating the two. I can't remember where it came in though.
Well, and that's interesting because that's a key for uh, Brave New World and Soma. You
There's a
know,
lot of like Brave New World type keys in this film, like
yeah,
1984.
I
Yeah.
think 1984 is more of a huge reference for this movie,
Hmm.
even down to the Ministry of Energy, the Ministry of Education,
Hmm.
those kind of things. That was,
For
and
sure.
you're following this one guy that is so insulated. He doesn't want to rebel against the status quo. It is just what it is. Accept it, go with it. Like Winston was. But then he's slowly pulled into this plot where there's hope and there's a possibility and there's a maybe, and then at the end, not.
Right. Right. I've got a few. I mean, we're talking about like Brave New World in 1984, but I have a
Yeah.
few other keys that might surprise you when we get to them.
Okay.
Did you?
Okay.
I can briefly go over like awards that the film
Yeah.
received. It was an Oscar nominee for adapted screenplay, cinematography, and editing, but it was a BAFTA winner for cinematography and production design, and a nominee for
Production
effects.
design's I mean, it's so realistic. I'm going, how the hell did they? I mean, did they just go to Beirut and film or something? I mean, or Syria? I mean, because it's some of these places are such like a hovel. It's just like terrible.
Right.
Um,
I just think it's funny that a lot of these movies that we like win awards in England, but not in the States.
mhm. Yeah.
And I'm like, why is that?
Now, if he had a death-defying disease that he had to overcome, or if he had a speech impediment, or something like that, or some kind of physical ailment, then he might win an award in America. They seem to
Like
only pay attention.
Children of a Lesser God.
Yeah. Yeah. Make him deaf. Let's just make him deaf.
And then lastly, it is on a list that we're well acquainted with. The 1001 movies you must see before you die. So there you go, folks. We tend to pick them. So
I've just got a few other notes before we jump to keys, just some
sure,
minor
absolutely.
ones that
I've got
just
some
took,
trivia too.
that I just took while I was watching it, which are, you have to pay attention, of course. There's, there's also environmental pollution is in like 3 different major scenes. That's a big deal, even from but not mentioned. They never say anything about it, but you're seeing like factories in the background just billowing smoke into the air. You're seeing, as you're following a car, you suddenly in the foreground see a field and it's just a pile of cattle that's on fire or burned or something, just all this environmental deal. I thought the I've got production design was bleak, dismal, but also incredible. And I mentioned the scene where he's first kidnapped. And he's in the room with all the newspapers on the walls.
Yeah.
All the newspapers are
Yes. They were
made
created
up.
headlines.
They're created
Stories.
headlines. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's part of the narrative as well, as what you were talking about as far as exposition and history.
Yeah, seeing what happened in the history, and it's all there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the birth looked amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it looked so realistic and so real. I had to actually rewind, look back, and go, "What is that a body? Wait.
I think I read that they CGI'd the baby over, I guess, a dummy they used or something.
Yeah, she's actually got a fake lower torso, and they actually push the puppet baby out of it, sort of thing. So I was going, okay, very realistic. I liked it. The ending to this movie is depressing as hell, I think, in my opinion. Is. But some people thought that it was hopeful, you know. So I thought that was interesting in reading some of the reviews and some of the reactions to it. I did see one interview that said that Alphonse he's quoted as saying, "I wanted a movie that ended where we hoped the movie started." And I thought that was an interesting quote. You know, that he wanted to end on a note of, and what's the next chapter and where is it going? But without it being a hook, it's just where we wish the story had started and then go from there. And then my last little note is, well, probably not, but the last one I have right now is a quote I like. I like the quote, and I went back so I could write it all down, that the nanny, forgot her character name, sorry, but the nanny, the one that
Miriam?
The one was with Key that protected her.
I think it was Miriam.
Miriam, I think you're right. She says when they're in the old abandoned, falling apart school, and Key is outside on the swing, she says, as the sounds of the playgrounds faded, the despair set in. Very odd what happens in a world without children's voices. That was just some powerful writing.
And then at the very end, you can hear children.
Oh, yeah, the whole credits is with children playing. Again, to his point of I wanted it to end where you wish it had started, sort of thing. So I like that. I thought that was really good.
I only actually have one little trivia thing that I thought was kind of interesting. Almost every shot contains an animal, usually a dog.
I hadn't thought of that, but that's probably true.
I know. And I was like, I was thinking, well, there's a lot of long shots, so there could potentially be animals in there somewhere. But I don't think you always see them. But you did mention the burning cows. I did see those. Yeah. And those are animals. And then we saw the inflatable pig at the factory.
Right.
Which was an homage to Pink Floyd.
Well, and he seems to be liked by animals. You know, the one guy who's guarding him talks about the dogs and goes, they like you. They don't like anyone.
Yeah.
And then later on, the cat calls up his leg. The cat won't go away.
Right.
She has a dog. Mariska has her dog with her the whole time.
Michael Caine has the cats, right?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So I hadn't thought of that, but that's interesting. I don't know. Was there a dog? There was not a dog in the interrogation scene.
Well, it says almost every shot. Not every shot. So
I wonder if they mean like representation of a dog too. Like
there could be. There might be a picture on the wall with a dog in it. You never know.
Wall.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting trivia, though. I was not aware of that, but now I might have to watch.
And you've got an Animals T-shirt on. That's funny.
I do. Animals.
Okay. I mentioned if we're headed toward Keyland that my big key is just the whole hero's journey thing of all those epic poems or epic literature. But I mean, I have modern ones as well.
Well, I thought it was interesting because, you know, I've mentioned it a few times on the podcast. I'm listening to another podcast that is Buffy and the Art of Story, and she talks a lot about the hero's journey and the whole Joseph Campbell and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of her big things is, you know, the halfway point, which is where, or what she calls the midpoint, which is where the protagonist has to make a decision to either go forward with the quest or to go against the quest. And it's definitely a decision they make. And the hero always goes with the quest, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so true in this. I mean, you can tell when he finally says, okay, I'll do it. Not, I'll do it for the money. When he takes Key away and says, he's making the decision, I'm going to defy these rebels, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get her to safety.
Right.
And
I'm not going to let this kid die because mine did.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And giving him enough of a backstory like that about his child being young and dying young and everything else, which helps the motivation, without it being, you know, so in your face or so overdone or so, oh, and this is why, kind of telegraphed, I guess. I thought the writing was really strong in this. It was definitely a really good screenplay. I've got, of course, 1984, I already mentioned.
Right.
But I've also got like Handmaid's Tale. I think it's even the newer, more modern dystopia this is similar to, because it's so female-centric. Female are second-class citizens in this. Females are probably looked down upon now, definitely because they don't serve the major purpose that the male patriarchy sees them for, which is procreation. You know, so you never see a female in power in this, anywhere. You don't see cops as female cops. You don't see any female in a position of power other than the Julianne Moore character, and she's a rebel. You know, so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Well, I was going to say, you mentioned the Pink Floyd reference as far as the Power Station. Did you know that the album Animals was released in 1977 and that this movie is set in 2027? So it would be the 50th anniversary of that.
Oh,
album.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think all of that's intentional.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mentioned Wizards. I mentioned it also has a lot of Fahrenheit 451 feel to me. That oppressive government, that oppressive regime with guns and all of that. But one of my biggest keys, I think, is it reminded me and I kept feeling references to, like a Dashiell Hammett, a detective from the film noir.
That's awesome, because I get weird things from this movie too, not just sci-fi and violence. Yeah.
But, you know, because he's the guy who's doing his job. It's a boring job, but mostly I drink. I drink a lot. And then the femme fatale pulls him into the story that he has to do, and he decides to sober up and take the journey and do it. The whole time he's trying to. The guy
you've got a whole other genre in there, right there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, and I've got in my notes, the poor guy never gets to finish a cigarette.
Yeah.
Because how many times does he start and have to put it out, or he can't even light it, or what?
Right, or something blows up.
Something blows up. You know, he doesn't even get to finish his coffee in the first scene. You know.
Well, and speaking of blow-ups, all of the cinematography and action takes me straight to Saving Private Ryan. I mean, it reminds me so much of that movie, the carnage and the violence and the explosions and stuff.
Yeah, the rubble
and the running around. You know, in it.
And those moments of like pause and quiet, suddenly boom, and you hear gunfire and explosions and people screaming and running. Yeah, yeah, I could see that, definitely.
So that's more of a modern cinematic reference I would use as far as a key. You mentioned 1984. We've already mentioned there's the allegory of her being the mother of Christ type child, which is the religious allegory. And we mentioned the fishes, and there's apparently other stuff to do with some quote from Psalms and stuff. I'm not going to go into all that, but there's a heavy religious allegory in there. You mentioned the fact that the child Dylan dies in a flu pandemic.
Yes.
And of course, we are in the midst of one right now, which is kind of creepy.
Yes.
Oh, here's one you're going to love. This one I did not know. I copied this one. Apparently, you mentioned Touch of Evil. There is an homage to Schwartz in Wells' film Touch of Evil when Jasper calls Theo amigo, just as Schwartz referred to Raymond Miguel Vargas as amigo.
Amigo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. So when you mentioned was it the film elements or the cinematography being similar to Touch of Evil? You said something.
Yes. Well, Touch of Evil is known for its opening shot, which is like 6 minutes long.
Right. So Cuarón, I can't even say his name now, was very aware of that as well. And I think that's why he put that in there. Or either that or Michael Caine was one.
Well, his tracking shots are, I mean, even down to like going down an alley, twisting a turn, getting onto a double-decker bus and following him go up to the second level as it's driving away. I'm going, okay, all that is one freaking shot. Jeez, there's so many good ones in this that are just so well done. And I've also got a key for Black Mirror.
Okay.
Because this is a very Black Mirror feel to it. This could easily have been a Black Mirror episode.
They could have done a condensed version. Yeah, for sure.
And it's not really a key, but it's a reference, I guess, is there was a movie that came out a couple of years ago, very under the radar. Not a lot of people have seen it, but it is on Netflix, I believe. But it's called What Happened to Monday? And it is it feels like Noomi Rapace is the lead in it, and she plays 7 different siblings. Oh. So she has 7 different personalities she does in the movie. And it's all about it's all about a dystopic civilization, future where, people don't have children anymore. And it's about a guy who I think is, trying to remember who played the lead. I can't remember right now who played the father in it. His wife ends up having 7 children, and she dies in childbirth, and he hides the babies and takes care of them, and they grow up. And now it's 19 years later, and they're all their own personalities, still hiding, like Anne Frank from the government and everybody else. And the way they do it and the way they go to school and everything else is they each are a day of the week. So like Monday only goes to school and out in public to the grocery store or whatever else on Monday. The rest of the week she stays in hiding. Tuesday only goes out on Tuesday. Wednesday only goes out on. It's very unique. I
think I've heard of this.
It's a really cool movie. It's a really cool movie. And when they come home, they then relate everything that happened to them that day, so the rest of them know. It's really good. They are essentially playing one person in the outside world, where at home in hiding there's 7 of them.
Well, that's going to bring me to one of my oddest keys. As far as secreting children, like you're talking about, or the Christ allegory of Joseph and Mary trying to get the baby born in a place. The movie that came to mind a lot to me when I was watching this, you're going to laugh when I say this, is first of all, it's John Ford, because I always go to John Ford for stuff. And it's that movie, The Three Godfathers, where he does a religious allegory with the 3, they're not good guys, they're bad guys that end up rescuing a baby born of a woman who dies, and they make a promise to her that they'll get the baby to safety. And that whole quest that they go on, they all end up dying except for one, is kind of a hero's quest too, that they're all of a sudden put on. And that's it. Just, I don't know, to me there's parallels, even though they're vastly different movies.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that's good. Interesting.
You've mentioned we both mentioned Clockwork Orange, 1984, Brave New World, all these dystopian movies. Oh, I'm sorry, we have not mentioned Clockwork Orange. That's what I was going to mention. Is that he cites Clockwork Orange as the inspiration for the battered to 2027 London. So
That makes sense too.
So he references Kubrick, which is no surprise since he's an auteur as far as film. And then the last one I have is coincidentally the last scene of the movie when they're in the boat. It reminds me of Hitchcock, Lifeboat.
Lifeboat. Yeah.
Yeah.
I kept thinking, I really like the way he shot this with all the fog, so we don't know what's coming from where and if
Mhm.
it's coming or not. And the fact that that's obviously the real ocean. There's way too many waves and they're too big and they're too coming from everywhere and they're rocking and all this stuff. I was going, oh my
Yeah.
God.
Here comes Jaws
Yeah.
or the
I like
Mist.
the way it was done and the buoy,
Mhm.
the mist. That's a good key reference there.
It's a little stretching it there.
Uh,
The big tentacle comes up and snatches her away.
But no, but that whole feeling of you don't know, you keep looking in the background, even though they're in the foreground going,
Right.
is it going to be a boat? Is there not going to be a boat? What's going to happen? I don't know. You know,
You
are
can
the
hear a
police?
buoy clinging or clanging.
Yeah, you see it because it's got the red light on it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that they didn't belabor the end, I mean, his death and everything else. They didn't, it was very well done,
subtle.
well performed, very subtle. And
Mhm.
she's going, I'm bleeding. He goes, no, it's mine. And just and then just slowly just kind of keels over and just says, I'm going.
Yeah.
It was great. Part of me was going, oh, come on. Not right now. Not when the Tomorrow Boat is here and everything.
The Tomorrow Boat.
Well, that was
Sounds
the
like a
name
Disney
of it.
cruise
It
line.
was Tomorrow. Yeah.
It's the Tomorrow. We're sailing for
Hey, boys and girls, come on
Grand
up
Cayman.
here. You have a baby? Oh, what?
I'm going through my notes. Oh, you know what? I do have one other one that I did. I forgot about. They use the word shanty in the movie, and at one point, 3 times it's written shanty, 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 which is a Hindu prayer, and immediately makes me think of Madonna and the Ray of Light album because she's got a song on there called that. But it is also apparently a final line of T.S. Eliot's poem, The Wastelands, which is a work devoted to contemplating a world emptied of fertility. And I thought, well, that's got to be in there for a reason.
It doesn't mean anything like in Hindu or whatever?
It's like peace.
Peace
to you. Yeah, shanty, shanty. It's kind of like namaste is to,
Right.
Same. Similar.
Okay, interesting.
And that's all the notes I have, I think.
That's all I have too. I mean, I really enjoyed this movie. I was glad we put it on the list. It is definitely not an uplifting party want to go play after you watch it movie.
No, but it's one I've wanted to revisit for a while, and because of the podcast, I've been able to. So I think that's interesting, or I think that's cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we put it in our 3rd year when we can talk a little bit more obliquely about it, which is good.
For sure.
And so I'm assuming next time we'll be in horror world.
We will be in the world of horror, and it is a movie about children too.
Really? That's a link. Yes. So there you go.
So there's
That's an
enticing
key to the next episode. Yeah. It's about children.
That's called a teaser, folks.
But we do want to, Tim and I always want to thank all of you guys for listening, for watching us, if you're watching us on the video, for supporting us, ranking us. Please give us just a little star or a little review or a great episode, guys, or whatever. Please remember that Tim has a book that you need to buy.
Coincidentally,
what's the name
right
of it,
here
Tim?
next to me. It is called The Dead Next Door.
Oh, really?
And it's a zombie book.
And I'm sorry, guys. Even before we started the podcast and everything else, I had read this novel, and I highly recommend it. It's really good. If you like horror fiction, go read this guy's work. He's good.
And it's full of keys.
And it,
Because this is full of keys.
but talk about post-apocalyptic scary. It's a good one. Yeah, let's turn that into a movie. Let's do that.
Oh, I'd love to do that. A series, actually, it would be even better.
Get Alfonso on the phone. Let's see if he'll do it.
There you go.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess, Tim, I'll see you next time.
That sounds like a plan, David.
Yeah, buddy.
All righty. Bye.
Bye.
You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.